we came as PRs to Canada, we paid this carbon tax in the first year, but there was nobody to tell us how do we get that rebate. Your money through rebates will be more than what you would spend. The next time that you go to the gas station, gas will cost more because of this increase in carbon tax. This carbon tax has to go, or in a year and a half, this Prime Minister is going. It's as simple as that. This was a recent statement made by the Ontario Premier Ford in a recent press conference.
Price on pollution is increasing along with the Canada carbon rebate.
The federal carbon tax has increased to $80 a ton with no sign the federal government intends to ease up.
If you have been living in Canada, you must have noticed some news about carbon tax. What is it and how does it impact our lives? Will it make the cost of living even more expensive? Because there has been a recent increase in this tax starting April 1 of 2024. But as the government says, will it make an average Canadian more money through rebates? Let's discuss in this video. Before we start the video, in case you haven't subscribed to the channel, please hit that subscribe button so that you are continuously made aware of the informational videos that we keep on making on our channel. Hi Cainds, welcome back to the channel Be Kind. My name is Shrey, and in this video we will talk about the recently increased carbon tax pricing of Canada. How much do you actually pay for it? Do you get more money through rebates? And why is the opposition calling to axe the tax? Firstly, let's talk about what is carbon tax. Just as the name suggests, it is a tax put on use of fossil fuels. It is implemented through two separate ways. One tax is focused on large industries and big emitters of fossil fuel, and the second part of the tax is more for consumers like you and I, and for small and medium businesses. In this video, we will focus our attention more on the consumer aspect of carbon tax. So this tax aims to collect money from individuals based on their usage of fossil fuel. If you're using a lot of fossil fuel through gas or heating, you will pay more through this tax, and the concept is that 90% of whatever they collect through this program is redistributed back to the population of Canada. In theory, this looks like a very attractive proposition for reducing our carbon footprint and making a positive change in the climate. But the implementation of this is what makes it slightly confusing. So let's try to unravel it in this video. So this tax was initially announced by the federal government, but not all provinces have to take part in it.
And any province opposed to it can implement their own carbon price, as BC and Quebec have done.
Every province has the opportunity to put forward its own plan as long as they are fighting climate change to the same level that we're asking all other Canadians to do.
Provinces can either choose to stay with the federal government, or they can create a plan of their own and use that to collect carbon tax. Provinces like British Columbia and Quebec have their own provincial carbon pricing strategy. That's why they're not part of the federal plan. Provinces which do not have their own carbon pricing strategy will have to follow the federal government one. So how much is this carbon pricing or carbon tax? The federal government has prescribed a minimum limit of that tax, which was $65 per ton of carbon dioxide till March 31st, and that has gone up to $80 per ton of carbon dioxide starting April 1. So there is a $15 per ton increase. There are two components when it comes to increasing of carbon tax. One is the direct cost that you pay for consuming fossil fuels. For example, if the next time that you go to the gas station, gas will cost more because of this increase in carbon tax. Similarly, your household heating bill will go up because of this increase. So that's the direct cost, and we will look shortly what does it mean for your wallet. But there is a bigger impact of this which also comes indirectly. For example, the increase in gas will also mean that anything that you buy when it comes to say food or clothing or other goods will be more expensive, because the retailers will increase the price to cover the increased cost. So these indirect cost increases linked to carbon tax make it very difficult to understand whether we are actually losing money or gaining money through the rebates. Say I am a small and medium business owner, and my costs to produce my products have gone up because of this increased gas price. But maybe I can take benefit of this situation and increase the price even more. So that ways, it's ultimately the consumer who's losing out more than what the carbon price is increasing. And that is what makes it tricky to understand the true impact of carbon pricing. But what does it mean when we are filling out our gas in our cars? It means that the carbon price for a liter of gas will now be 17 cents per liter, which was about 14 cents before. So there is about 3 cents per liter increase for every liter of gas that you have in your car. So it means if you're filling a 50 liter tank in your car, that would be about $9 in carbon tax, which is about $1.50 to $2 more than what you were paying in 2023. So definitely that increase will affect your pocket. So if you have a diesel car, the carbon price in that is about 21 cents, which was about 17 cents earlier. So there is about 4 cent increase in the price of diesel per liter. If you use propane for your heating, a 1 liter propane will have about 12 cents of carbon price, which was 10 cents earlier. So there is about 2 cent increase per liter of propane. And if you talk about natural gas, on average in Canada, households use about 2300 cubic meter of natural gas in a year, mostly for heating. At $80 per ton, the carbon price will add about 15 cents to a cubic meter of natural gas, which was about 12 cents earlier. So there is about 3 cent increase per cubic meter of natural gas. That amounts to a natural gas annual carbon price bill of about $347 for an average household, which was about $282 last year. So essentially for carbon tax, we are paying a double tax because in Canada, HST is applied on the total cost, which includes carbon pricing. So we will be paying additional tax on account of this increased carbon tax. So it's a double tax situation for an average Canadian. So now that we know what's the impact of this increase on your wallet, let's understand what this carbon tax rebate program is all about. So as per the Government of Canada, all the money that they collect through this carbon tax is redistributed back to the Canadian population in the form of rebates. These rebates are based on your household composition and your family size, and not on household income. These are the rates that I've put on the side. So if you're a couple living in Toronto, expect about $210 between both husband and wife together, which will come to one person who has filled their tax first, and this money will come every quarter. So in a full year, you will expect about $840 starting April 1. So imagine there is a couple living in Toronto and they don't have a car. They rely mostly on public transport and they live in an average home. Your money through rebates will be more than what you would spend. That is what has been said by the government on multiple occasions, and I'm sure they would have done some research on it, but I'm not sure how they would have calculated the indirect cost increase of this carbon pricing. For example, I'm a business owner and it costs me more to produce my goods because of this increased carbon price. I can pass on the full price to my consumer, or I can pass the costs maybe even more so by keeping some profit to myself. This is what is called profit gouging, and this is an unethical way that businesses can use to pass on more than fair share of cost to the consumer. So ultimately that couple will end up spending more because of indirect increases in carbon tax. Whether it is being covered by rebates or not, that's something that we are not so sure about. So in essence, carbon tax has been in Canada for a while. It has gone up recently as was proposed as part of the initial plan. It now will cost more to fill your gas at the gas station, and your heating bills will also increase. But you will also get more rebates that will come to your account. There are still some questions that I have on the implementation of the entire program. The principle behind carbon tax is for individuals to make a shift towards greener choices. They think that putting a financial burden will make us switch to a better choice for the environment. Now that we have understood what carbon tax is and what is the rebate structure, now let's try to understand from an opposing standpoint what are leaders like Pierre Poilievre saying about the carbon tax. So leaders like Pierre Poilievre and Doug Ford, which are part of the Conservative Party, they have always been a proponent of axing the tax. And they also say that this impacts businesses' ability to produce goods and makes it even more harder to compete at the global front, because say a farmer in Canada is producing goods and he's having to pay this carbon tax, and he's competing with a farmer in any part of the world where this carbon tax doesn't exist. So that way their cost goes up and they can't compete at that level. Also, another point that is made more frequently is, instead of increasing the burden on consumers by collecting the tax upfront and then giving rebates, why do we not spend this money on initiating green projects or making these options more cheaper? For example, buying a Tesla in Canada is much more expensive than doing it in US because of import duties and tariffs. So what if instead of this carbon tax, EV cars and better for planet technologies are made more affordable, so that there is a natural shift made towards these technologies? Secondly, another point that I don't like about the carbon tax, and this is something which I felt personally, is when we came as PRs to Canada, we paid this carbon tax in the first year, but there was nobody to tell us how do we get that rebate. When I found out recently that we had to fill a 6-page form and tell CRA that we are new PRs, please enroll us in this rebate program. And I don't know how many people do that in the first year. So essentially, we all pay the tax in the first year we become residents, but we don't end up getting that rebate. And in that tax, they're also asking for income of the last 3 years, even if you were not in Canada, and then we have to mail that form to an address and then the rebates will start coming. It is a very big barrier to getting that rebate for most newcomers. So I don't know, that rebate that we were supposed to earn in that first year, what happened to that rebate and where did it go? Because it didn't come to us. And I'm sure if you are a newcomer to Canada, it would have happened with you as well. But I will link the form in the description box so that if you are still planning to come, or this is your first year in Canada and you have not filed your taxes, you can fill that form and start getting that rebate. So I hope through this video you would have gotten some information about the carbon tax and how you can get rebates through the carbon tax rebate program. In case you had any other doubts, or if you think I missed out on some point, please mention it in the comments. And until next time, we will see you very soon.